Over the last 40 years, federal investment in our nation's water infrastructure has decreased dramatically. For those of us on centralized systems, 95% of the cost of maintaining and upgrading those systems has just shifted from the federal government and onto the public paying our monthly water bills. At the same time, income inequality in the US has skyrocketed. For the top 1% of households in the US, their income has more than tripled since 1979. However, for 90% of households, like us normal people, our income has barely outpaced inflation over that same time period, while over 95% of the financial burden of keeping our water safe has been transferred onto us. The reality is that the poorest families in our communities are the ones bearing the largest burden, creating for many an agonizing choice between paying our water and paying for other essentials like food or medicine. This is an untenable situation for low-income families, but it's also an untenable situation for the entire community and for the nation as a whole. Because if you get your water from a public utility, like the vast majority of Americans do, growing income inequality means that an increasing number of people in every one of our communities are having a harder and harder time paying their water bills. And it's going to have an effect on the quality and reliability of water for everyone who uses that system. This is why I've long supported a nationwide, permanent, and fully funded low-income assistance program to help people pay their water bills. And as a staffer for Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, I wrote the first ever piece of legislation that would do exactly that. During the pandemic, Congress created a short-term emergency program through HHS to address this issue. During the pandemic, Congress funded this program twice for a total of over $1 billion. This helped more than 1 million people during the pandemic, but unfortunately that funding is almost gone and the program is expiring. Advocates in Washington are working round the clock to try and get additional funds for this emergency program until a permanent program created by the bipartisan infrastructure law is stood up at EPA. Over the last